indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure. Y'all bow your heads with me. Dear God, I thank you so much for the opportunity for us to gather tonight, and I pray that you'll watch over our meeting and guide our decisions and help us to hear the information presented and just lead us in the decisions that we make for this school. I pray for our staff that you'll continue to watch over them, protect them, and provide them courage and encouragement, and the students as well, that you'll just keep them safe and help them to obtain their full potential. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you. It's nice to be back. It's really nice to see Mrs. Loudermilk here with us. We're all here, so roll is called. We didn't have to be done up yonder, so we're all here. Now it's time for open forum. If anyone would like to have a comment before the board, we welcome those. You have a 5-minute limit. We can only act on items that are on the agenda, so if you have something that's not there, we can't visit with you about it. And it's not a question and answer period, so anyone? All right, well, let's move on and get down to business. I'm assuming everybody's had an opportunity to see the minutes from last time, and if there's no objection, we'll approve those as presented. Let that be, Desiree. And on the consent agenda, Mr. Wylie, talk about paying bills.
Carol, let us have it.
Quite a few of our bills related to sports and travel for our kids that we're doing things. Beginning on page 7, our Amazon bill is $67. We just determined that's the lowest price available. Towards the bottom of the page, the City of Abilene had a building permit fee of $26,483. That's related to our construction. On page 8, the Grace Museum, we're now paying for the art lessons that at our elementary campuses, and so those are listed there.
Let me make a comment about that. We've always paid for that, but in past years, they have paid, each campus has paid for that out of their activity fund, and my thought was there, if it was an important enough object for them for us to do it, they would be showing me that by the spending of some of their own monies, and they have continued to pay for it, and so this year we're putting that under instruction, and that's not going to be paid out of their activity funds. So.
That sure is nice.
Yeah. Mr. Boone has similar thoughts.
Very similar, yes, sir.
Page 9 just deals with a lot of the athletic costs for officials and supplies and fees for the different sports. Page 10 has got our payroll for January, $2.5 million for our payroll.
I think I remember when it was half that.
That's been a while. We currently have about 650 employees. That number slightly fluctuates from day to day.
Page 11 has got the Sam's Club charges of $12,000. Not only do we buy cafeteria supplies, we also get janitorial, and most of our paper comes from, for the classroom, comes from Sam's as well.
Karen, just curious, what is Special Services in Texas LLC?
That is a contract agreement we have for some special ed.
That is a lady who provides what's called orientation and mobility services to our students with visual impairments. Until this year, that was provided through the Region 14 Education Service Center, and the service centers quit funding that. And so, and that the same lady who had worked there, she retired. So they did not replace her, but she still wanted to provide those services, so we contract that with her. We have, I think, 5 in the district that she works with.
I knew that Johnny would have a better answer on that. Page 12, the Westico Fuels, once again, that's almost a weekly or every 10 days, cost is $6,900 when they come out to fill up our tanks. See, the gas bill for last month was $10,000. They come in at different times, so there's a few smaller bills at different times, but we try to get them all lumped together when we can. Page 13 has got another construction cost, $28,000 for Infotech, Hibbs and Todd.
And most of that was for the plans, the engineering of the water line, and there was about $7,500 for the traffic study that they asked us to do. We had to pay for that, so.
On the same page, Leonard Water Services, the $49,000 is the final payment for the pump station that we did. Page 14, you'll see US Bank listed a couple of times. Those are the payments for the maintenance tax note and the time warrants. And that is an interest-only payment on these two for February. Those will be paid. The supplemental bills begin on page 15. And once again, another construction costs to Cadco for $19,800. And then the Kibler bill is on page 16 for $169,000. Are there any other ones that you had questions about that I might have jumped over on that portion of the report?
One thing I was gonna ask, on that pump station, we helped pay for it, but the city is gonna maintain it. Is that right?
No, that's ours.
That's
That's our pump station, that's right. So they will monitor the water usage on that. That is a pretty interesting get up, and Mr. Bessett's more familiar with the pump station we have. We have a pump station at the high school where we get affluent water for all of those grounds. And, but this has got an electronic meter inside the well house. And so you see your usage inside that well house. And, so that is currently is being used at East Elementary, and I think Kyle is real close to finish to hooking it up at East Junior High too. That'll be a big one, because we've got 2 athletic fields down there. So, we're excited to see how that works. So, I mean, there's plenty of pressure. Matter of fact, when we first hooked it up, and Kim can tell you, the pressure was a little high on it, and it blew some sprinkler heads up. That's not good. So they backed it off a little bit, but it is ours to maintain.
Okay. On page 8, the energy contract for 17.8, what is that?
That is Ideal Impact. We entered into that contract about December of last year, and they came in and did a lot of work on our I'm gonna get this wrong, on our management, in other words, the controls are all computerized, and they did they went in and tweaked everything in an agreement that was basically, based on savings. We could have paid for it all up front and then recouped that over time, or we could have, there were several ways we could have structured it. What we did was an 80-20. We said, or my feeling on it was, is we didn't want to pay it all up front, because then they're gone and they don't have any skin in the game. For savings, we pay 80% and then we get 20% of the savings, and when the contract is over, we get all the savings. And so the goal is, and we've been in conversation with them, when they're gone, we want to know everything about how to monitor our usage, and it's been good for us. We've actually found some things. Had an issue at the high school in some cold weather during December, and we had trouble pinpointing it, but it helped us. It was a valve on the hot water, am I gonna say it right, coil, or wherever the water went through that air handling unit, the valve was stuck. So it was cold in the classroom. They thought it was Mr. Light turning, not putting coal in the furnace. And it didn't have anything to do with the coal.
They were right to ask about it.
That's what Ebenezer said, I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
that is a quarterly payment, I think.
It is.
And so they combine that over a quarter, and then we pay up each quarter.
Thank you, Carol.
Going forward, we'll have our cash balances on page 17. So at the end of January, cash in the bank was $28,300,000. We have moved all of our investments from Lone Star into our checking account because the interest rate is better there. You can see on the debt service line, the balance was $4.3 million. So this Friday, we will pay out $3.9 million of that on our bonds for 2015 and 2018.
And that's a principal payment on the INS side, right?
It's principal and interest.
Okay, that one's got, but we make another payment.
In August will
In
be
August.
the next payment, and it will be interest only.
Okay.
It's flipped from what the maintenance notes are. The next page has our revenue report.
Let me make one other comment about that. That 28.3, that'll be our high point for the year. And so, right now, we will continue to not get any state payments until, is it April? Seems like April-ish. And those are not huge payments that we get, but, that 28 million is gonna decline all the way to the end of the year. That's our high point, high water mark of the year.
January was the last month you could make tax payments without penalty unless you did the split. So that's why there's a large amount of deposits in January for taxes, and then it's gonna slide off to very little income coming in. So you can see there on page 18, line 5711, we have collected 80% of our tax revenue for the year. And line 5812, we're at 47% of our state revenue. Those are our largest contributors. So overall, we're at 63% of revenue received.
And there was some concern, that 5711 line, there was some concern that with COVID and impact on economy and some of those issues, that number might be substantially behind this year, and it just, 4% is 4%, but that's not near what they were afraid might happen, so we're in pretty good shape there.
And then line 19 is the expense report for the year. And so we're at 42% of our expenditures there.
We're within half a percentage point of our revenue and a percentage point of our expenses from last year. I wonder if that's, without going back and looking, I wonder if that's pretty, if we're steady at this point.
And I'm having trouble hearing you, Steve, I'm sorry.
No, I'm still, I said we're a half percentage point of our revenue and a 1 percentage point of our expenses. I just wonder if that's steady across years. I don't wanna go back and look, but I just
Yeah.
thought it was interesting that we were that close.
Yeah, it's
Even this year.
And like I say, the revenue is always higher at the January because that's the high point for us.
Thank you, Carol.
Anybody have any questions for Carol and Mr. White?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Did you get that, Desiree?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, it passes unanimously. Well, Mr. Light, I really hate to do this, but if anybody, if you guys don't have any objections, we're gonna get a construction update, so our friends can.
There he is. He moved. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being in
Appreciate
charge.
that. Well, in my opinion, completing the shell construction in the designated time is the operators out there. So we made some good time.
You might tell them what the 14 trucks are doing.
They're building up, we dig down 5 feet, and that takes us down to the substrate as outlined in the geotechnical report. And so we scarify and compact 5 feet down, and we bring in what we call select fill. In this area, that's usually caliche or road base. And they have a fancy TxDOT name for it. They actually measure the amount and the size of the granules that go in. They measure the amount of rocks that go in. And then what you do is you moisture condition that to bring it up to an optimum moisture level. So they take a sample of that into the lab. They do a bell curve of that. That tells us exactly where we need to be with our moisture content. So if you're more than 2% plus or minus, you'll never make your compaction levels. So just by sight, the guys have worked with the material long enough and everything, they got a pretty good idea where they're at. And then once they put down a 6-inch layer of that, then the lab comes out and they test every 3,000 square feet. So we're 54,000 square feet, so there are 14 tests on the slab every time we come up 6 inches. So right now, we're at our 8th lift right now, so we're on lap 2. We're projecting that we're complete on Thursday, but if you haven't seen the weather forecast, the weather moves in again on Wednesday night, so they'll probably push us till the 1st of next week. But the good news is that we got a building permit on the 25th of January. That's released our plumbing contractor to come on. Over the last month, we put in our new electrical service line, so it's underground line from 1750 all the way down to the foundation. So at the end of this week, they're scheduled to set the transformer in place. So we'll have power all the way down to the slab. I've been out there since Thanksgiving, running a little generator and a little space heater inside my office. So I finally got temporary power to my trailer and got Wi-Fi today. So I'm all set now, and I'm ready for the cold weather, and I can look out the window and see what everybody's doing. So everything's in pretty good shape. Taylor Electric's worked really well with us to get that in, I might add. We've also completed the underground communication line all the way down to the foundation, and we have a couple of spare conduits we run to that's about 50% complete. So that'll be for future growth. So if you ever have to bring in another line, then you've got conduits there waiting for you. Since the permit was released, our plumber got started on the sewer service line from 1750 Spirit Lane's about 1,000 feet long, and right now he's excavated 1,000 feet, he's tested about 500 feet. So he's working his way down to the building while we're building up the building pad. So as soon as the building pad gets built up, then he'll start his rough in at the foundation. And then we can really start getting a move on. We're forecasting, we split the building up into 2 phases. We're 54,000 square feet total, and we'll form up the concrete in about 25,000 feet, at about 25,000 square feet. That's the way we like it. That's about 600 yards. Makes for a real nice pour. We can get done before dark usually. By the way, we usually start at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's no traffic, nobody's in our way, we're not bothering anybody. And so anyway, it works best. Fortunately, the batch plant is just right down the road, so the transport time is much less. So we're anticipating a real good pour. Like I said, the rough end for phase 1 should take about 2 weeks. That encompasses the kitchen area, the gym area, and also the main entry. So we arranged it that way because the gym is all CMU block, takes a massive amount of equipment, a massive amount of material, and a massive amount of men just to get that up. So we're gonna start that as early as possible. And then also the kitchen, the rough end there is complex because of all the equipment they have in there. And we've included the administration area because that's one of the first areas you'll want complete whenever we finish. So we want that in front of the sequence line. Plus that cafeteria area, that's where all the high steel is. So we have a lot of tall beams. We try to get that hard stuff all done and everything. And then we'll move on to the classrooms, which is the easier part of it. But my concrete contractor came by last week and said, "Hey Charlie, I got 12 men at home. Can I start today?" And so anyway, I think we've got some available manpower that we'll be able to take advantage of. Same thing with my erector. Cisco is fabricating steel out of Dallas. They'll ship it here. And then RHS, a local contractor, who will do the erection. He called me up about 2 weeks ago and said, "Charlie, when do you plan on doing your erection?" "I've got you slated for the first part of March." I said, "You're the only thing I got on our schedule, so you have men running out your ear." So hopefully some of the downtime that we've had with the weather and everything, we'll be able to pick that up. We get the high steel out of the way, and we can really start rocking and rolling in. So I think we're in pretty good shape, just about like we anticipated. Don't see any problems. Are there any questions I can answer for anybody?
Let me make one comment, just as a refresher, and I don't think, Brad, you probably were not here when we were discussing it. If you remember, this is the only school we will have that has a lift station in it for sewer. So that sewer line is gonna be, the term pressurized, is that right? Is that sewer pressurized back to the?
It actually runs uphill.
Yeah, it runs uphill, so there'll be a lift station in that. That's the only school we've had like that, but there was no way to get the slope to work to get us to where we needed to be, so.
Actually, there was 10 feet of drop from 1750 down to the lift station. If you go out there, it looks like a flat piece of land, but it drops 10 feet and then it drops another 6 feet out to the edge of your property line. So anyway, it's a little deceiving, but my plumber came out there, he took a look at it, he shot it in and said, "Hey, it's not running downhill." So we made contact with the engineer, the engineer came out to the job site, we reviewed it with him. You may have heard me use the RFI, we follow through, we submit an RFI to the architect, he sends it to the engineer approves it, and so our methods are okay, and we're sure we're in the clear, so should be all good on that. Any other questions?
I guess we'll see you in about 3 weeks.
Yes.
March 1st, put it on your calendar. It's a
Oh,
different-
so you said.
Spring break is the next week. So.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, we can't get them to come in during spring break.
Darn teachers.
No, administrator.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on. School board election. We just had a school board election.
Seems like So, for the school board election, we need to call the school board election for May 1st. That's the date of the election. We have two places open, place 6 and place 7. That's Dr. Lowry's and Mr. McClellan's positions. As I said, election day is May 1st. The last day to file is February 12th, that's Friday, till 5 o'clock. And early voting is April 19th through April 27th. If you get to the back of the contract with the county, the cost of the election for us is $14,933.60. And it's broken down by all the different things they have there. If there is not a need for election, we will cancel the election, and that cost, of course, wouldn't be incurred. So, any questions about the board election?
And we're gonna have to make a motion to act on this, ladies and gentlemen. And Miller's not talking tonight, so just keep it up.
I'll make the motion that we call for a school board election and approve the contract with Taylor County for the elections office to conduct a joint election.
Chris did that. All right, anybody have any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, Desiree, passes unanimously. And make that contract. All right, school calendar.
Yes, sir. Last month, we brought y'all this calendar. This was the calendar we were sharing with all of our staff. We emailed it out the next day and asked for comments. Am I getting that sequence right? Did we email it before we came to the board or after? It was after. Was it right after the next day? All right. Emailed it out, asking for comments. Now, principals, I'm going to ask, I didn't get any negative comments, got a couple of positive comments, but did anybody, I mean, that's what we understood. We talked about this last staff meeting, but it's very similar to this year's calendar. I would say the major difference might be February, you see, in conjunction with President's Day, we're going to have a work day for our teachers. The reason that's a green and not yellow is because it's a waiver day where the state allows us to grab minutes for instruction, which helps make up the entire of the calendar. Then in March, the 11th, we're going to do that's a waiver day also, but we used to call those optional staff development days where they are able to get those, that training during the summer and count it for the 11th, so they aren't actually on site. And one of the reasons we chose that day was because as we looked at previous years, one of the things that starts happening in the spring, we have a shortage of substitutes, especially at the secondary level. But I can tell you from the requests, I know several principals have had requests. They'll start having things that show up on their calendar the day before we go, or the Friday before we go out for spring break. So we thought we would try having that as a day. The students are not there. The staff can get their training in the summer. So that would help us on that day for substitutes as well. And then you see a similar thing happening in April. We did that in conjunction with Good Friday. We have a lot of folks who say, okay, that if I have to travel for Easter, that gives me a travel day back. So that's the big differences between this year's calendar versus last year's calendar. And again, I think their feel is that the staff liked it.
How do the students feel? You guys okay with that? They're oblivious. Any other questions?
And we did have it approved by the advisory council as well. We took that to them last week, last Tuesday.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 and 2022 school calendar as presented.
Sir?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. No other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass unanimously, Desiree. We have a school calendar. We got some policy updates.
Mr. Vaughn's been anxiously awaiting this opportunity.
I know these are your favorite moments in the board meeting. But the good news is, update 116, of course, legal policy updates are automatic. You're not asked to approve those. We only have 4 local suggested revisions. So I'll go over those 4. I basically did a summary of their summary, so try to make this as short as possible. First one, CQB local, cybersecurity. The revisions just designate that the policy, the responsibility of cybersecurity training goes to the superintendent, specifies that. Also, for your information, Wylie uses the Know Before training program. We get several emails, several testing us out emails, and I failed 1 or 2 of those. And then you get to meet Kevin Mitnick, and former hacker, and then he takes you through training again.
It's really good training, and I might add, all joking aside, I get my wife to take it because she gets a lot of email and does a lot of business on our home computers. She looks at the same training information.
It's good, but it makes you not want to open up anything.
It does make me a little scared to open up things.
We get them, and am I the only one that does it? Because we get them.
Yeah.
I've messed it up a couple of times.
I'm on number 3.
Okay, the next one, DCD local, at-will employment. This is just a clarification that an at-will employee's appeal of dismissal will follow the district's employee grievance policy. The way it was worded previously made it appear that the appeal would start directly with the school board. And so just a clarification in the wording there. FFAC local medical treatment. This had the most revisions in policy. Basically, the revisions were to align the guidance with the Texas Department of State Health Services, their recommendations. The things that were changed, removal of some wording regarding administrative procedures on student illness, accidents, and epinephrine. Superintendent designates the employees that are authorized to administer medication that has been provided by the parent. District shall not purchase, kind of getting out of the purchasing of non-prescription medication business for students except as provided by policy. And then the policy addresses district-provided medication in the athletic program, parent request, students with IEPs and 504 plans, those kind of specific situations. Then there's clarifications on who may complete the medical authorization forms. Then the last thing, this was actually an update 115, but I think there was one word they missed. This is conduct on school premises, specifies that a person filing a complaint regarding a refusal of entry or ejection from property shall be permitted to address the board within 90 calendar days. Not business days, but calendar days is the key word there. Questions on update 16?
Let me make a comment. I was talking to Mr. Vaughn earlier today and bragging on his summary. He said, you know, this, if y'all have the explanatory notes in here, the full document is 345 or
Something like that. I have to confess to not reading every page.
the legal, and
There's
of
a lot of
course,
words for 4 things you need to adopt.
yeah, and the legal ones, we really don't have any choice in anymore.
Would you, let us know why that is?
As far as the legal, yeah, that is just, what they do is they update our policies to meet all the legal requirements that either the legislature or court cases may force us to make. And it's, so you can imagine this, used to call it the blue book, because it's blue, the paper's blue, and it's yay thick. And so if you ever have anybody that says, I know this thing inside and out, they're probably not being real honest, and we use it as a reference. So if something comes up and you say, gee, I wonder what board policy is on that, you can go back and look, and, you know, there's some items that are more hot topic than others, but it keeps us in compliance with state law.
So you're saying we have no flexibility on legal?
On legal, that's correct.
In scanning through this round, I didn't see anything that I thought was particularly heavily impacting the last one with the sexual harassment and things like that. That did have some impact. I didn't see anything just, you know, really like, oh, boy, we've got to get with the administrators on this. This is gonna change their world. I didn't see that in this update.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, Brad. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Vaughn before somebody moves to approve these policy changes?
Any of these changes that affect the way we are doing things, I mean, particularly like the medical treatment?
I think our nurses have already pretty much adapted to
That's what I would.
to that. So this is, sometimes, a lot of times, these policies are kind of catching up
Right.
to what our practice is. So I think that's the case there.
And so what he's saying is right, a lot of times we'll know, because the law will change from the last session, and before they can get it into a policy update, we've already put it in practice, because we know what's coming in.
We started most of that before the school year, I mean, that was already in place. The rest of them had them up there, so.
And the nurses are really good about it. They are really serious about their job, so they keep track of those things.
Trainers too.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
I move we approve local policy update 116.
Second. All right. Motion made, you get those things? Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, passed unanimously, Judge Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
All right, let's find out about the campus activity.
Let's see what Mr. Here we go, it's a race.
How's everybody doing? Ms. Laudermilk, good to see you.
Thank you.
Can I get 180 seconds on that?
No.
180 seconds. 180 seconds. 180 seconds. Hey, our student count, it says 686 in front of you. It actually went up to 688 today. We got a couple new kids. They keep coming, but we have a few that leave too. So we kind of hovered in the 680s for quite a while. Our at-home numbers are on there. They actually went up 1 or 2 today as well. We took benchmark testing about a week and a half ago. We've been mining that data. We've been having some meetings with our teachers, some really valuable data. And the thing with testing, whether it's STAR testing, benchmark testing, assessments in the classroom, if you don't look at your data, then why are we giving a test? And so we're really looking at that data, seeing what we can learn from it, what are areas that we need to focus on as we're going down the home stretch, and so that's what we've been doing. We do have UIL meets that are coming up in March, 5th and 6th grade March the 4th, 7th and 8th grade on March the 18th. We'll be getting on some buses and going to Stephenville and Brownwood. The West will be going as well, so it'll be a 4-team meet. We're excited about that. The 6 weeks is ending on the 19th, next Friday. The 4 6 weeks will be over. You see our attendance on there, it's sort of holding steady. We tanked at the beginning, but it's really been pretty good since then. Band and choir are both gearing up for their contests. Our TMSCA, our math and science group, and Math Counts, they've been having virtual meets, which I think is pretty awesome. I thought our UIL meet might be virtual, but I think we're gonna try to do it live and in person. But TMSCA and Math Counts, they have been having virtual meets. Our basketball season ended last week. So basketball is now over. Track is underway. There are a lot of kids out there. They're running, they're throwing, they were jumping today. They must have been having some kind of jump off today because there were a lot of kids long jumping. I could see him out my window, and there was lots of long jumping going on. So that is going. Cheer and Junior Bells, their tryouts are coming up before spring break, so that's something exciting to look forward to. First STAR test will be April the 6th. That's only 2 months away. We've got 2 months before the first one. We've got about 3 months before they all hit. So we are looking at the home stretch. T-test evaluations continue to happen. I had a great pre-conference today with a teacher. I have an evaluation tomorrow. I have another pre-conference tomorrow. So those things are going on. We've been awarding teachers for perfect attendance each month, trying to encourage them to get there and just to try to make it fun because so many people have missed days here and there, and so we're trying to make that a lot of fun. Something else that started today, last year, the month of February is often referred to as February, if you're in the education business. And so last year we started something at the East, and I call it My Awesome Colleague. And we're doing it again this year. It's the second annual My Awesome Colleague, and we started it today. Last week, the teachers, they were all assigned 5 staff members, and they wrote something awesome about those 5 staff members. They send it all to me, I compile it, and starting today and every school day for the rest of the month, I send that out to them. And so here are some samples of what they read today about their peers. Mrs. South, who is our one and only counselor. Mrs. South is the glue to the whole operation. She never fails to put a smile on everyone's face. I'm so blessed to work alongside her and get to know her beautiful soul. Mrs. Miller, who teaches 8th grade science, and she's also our UL coordinator. Mrs. Miller exudes grace, kindness, and peace. As a colleague, she is a source of endless encouragement and genuine friendship. As a teacher, she's a type students remember forever because she made them feel seen and valued, regardless of their academic success. April Burkhalter, who's one of our custodians. April is truly a ray of sunshine. I have never experienced a time when she didn't meet a good morning with a smile. Her spirit is refreshing and her attention to detail is very much appreciated. Sydney Enderlin, who is a 5th grade math teacher. Ms. Enderlin is dedicated to being the best math teacher she can be. She is creative in helping the students remember how to solve the problems. She challenges them to think for themselves and to push themselves to look beyond what they think they know. She keeps the students engaged and wanting more. As a colleague, Sydney is so much fun. She wants to do what's best for her students. She has a zest for life and learning. Lauren McElroy teaches 7th and 8th grade science. Ms. McElroy is hands down one of the most inspiring teachers at Wylie East Junior High. She always goes above and beyond for everyone on our campus. Christian Spencer, who does 7th grade science, cheer sponsor, she does lead and build, she does a lot of things. Christian Spencer has the best ideas, and I appreciate how generously she shares her great ideas. I use several of her ideas every day that she shared so far this year, and they've made my life so much easier. Rudy Saltis, who is he teaches U.S. history and he's our athletic director. It says, Rudy Saltis is exactly what a junior high athletic director should be. He is a beacon for students, a great teacher, even-keeled, dedicated, and a cheerleader for his students and coworkers. And then the last one that I'll share is about Mr. Wilkie. He is our behavior coach, and it says, Cliff, what a blessing he is to our school, our staff, and our students. He helps out when he sees a need. He cares about the kids, invests in them, and truly wants to see them be successful. He has a way with students that is special, and they truly respond to him. Hey, that was about 8 of the about 300 things that they're going to read about each other, that they wrote about each other for the rest of the month. And I think it, when people feel this way about each other, it makes them want to come to work. And it makes work maybe not seem so much like work. So anyway, just a little bit about what's going on at Wylie Junior High. I might have gone over my head. But thank you all very much.
Thank you. It was close.
All right, we're rocking and rolling Wylie West Junior High. Principal report you have, so if I miss, I'm just going to hit a few highlights, and if I miss something you have questions about, feel free to ask. Our student enrollment is actually up. I looked back at the numbers from last year, and we added 2 more today, so that's going up to 37 from last year. So we're at 860, or 870, sorry. Our current online learners is 59. We have 16 that are in quarantine, so those are the ones that come in and out, but our straight online learners are 59. Kindness campaign, Ms. Barham's rocking it with the kindness campaign. We started wearing kindness shirts every Monday. We're going to wear those through May. just trying to promote kindness. Also, we're doing a kindness board in the cafeteria, and students and teachers can write nice things about each other, put it in the box, and then we'll pick those and post those up in the cafeteria. And then we're also doing a school-wide challenge of kindness, and things are, each class has challenges to do kind things throughout the school. Our build class I talked to you about a lot, started peer assisting in 5th grade classes and some of our other classes, and they're just going in and helping out, helping read 180 kids. There's a couple of kids that go to the recess and do kickball and play with them. It's just good things where kids going, our older kids going and relating to the younger kids. Mr. Goodenough mentioned a bunch of things that we also are all doing as well, so I'm not going to go over those. Spelling Bee, we do have a representative for the Wylie West Junior High. That's Ava Ramos, and she will be performing or be at the Big Country Regional Spelling Bee on February 27th. And then our 6th grade theater students performed at the PAC Friday night. Did scenes from the Oliver Twist, and had some kids in that, and the school board member had a son. Did some awesome things there. Y'all have any questions? I believe I was at my 180.
I would say something, but it is kindness campaign going, so I'm working.
Good evening, everybody. You see our enrollment numbers right now are at 1,298 at the high school. That's down about 6 students from the last time I made a board report. And something else I want to bring to your attention if you haven't already noticed this, but if you look at our numbers in grades 11 and 12, you see 277 and 289. Well, in grades 7 and 8, that'll be hitting us next 2 years. Both those grade levels are right at 400. So, we're looking at we've been averaging about 50 kids per year at the high school over the last 8 years I've been there. Looks like we can expect a pretty significant jump from that for the next 2 years. At this time, as we get in here, talking about the Purple Dog Company launching new graphic design. Ms. Reagan Berry, who is our director of our CTE program, she's going to come up and talk to you about some of the things that are going on CTE currently.
Yeah, February is CTE month, National CTE Month, so I thought it was a perfect time for me to piggyback off of the principal's report. So I stuck on in front of you whenever I got here just a little, I'm not going to read all of it, but just to let you know what's going on in the CTE world at the high school, we offer over 12 career clusters and different programs of study. It's kind of cool because in front of you, you see 2 of our career clusters with the AV Tech. These are some of our students right here. And then also the gift that the high school gave to y'all for board appreciation, that was designed and cut by our ag programs and painted by our welding programs. And so those are just 2 examples of things that are going on in our CTE programs. I have some goals. We have a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, and I met with them back in the fall, and 15 different partnerships formed with different career clusters from that meeting, which was really cool. Initiated by members of the chamber volunteering, and then me hooking them up with some teachers, and then them opening those conversations. So here's some highlights that are going on right now. Besides the partnership with the chamber, the Purple Dog Company continues to be a profitable student-run business. They branched out and launched a graphic design branch, and so that's offered to the community where you can get students to design a logo, design a flyer, and that's all on their website. Our AV courses have become a staple. You see them everywhere, streaming and just producing, and it's so incredible the work that they do. Students continue to flock to our ag classes because they produce products like that. If you follow them on social media, they just posted this really cool fire pit that 2 girls welded, which is awesome. Human services and culinary arts continue to be some of our most popular classes because they're learning to cook. Child development, they all have the fake babies that they get stopped in the store and asked about those babies. Whenever all the whenever all the GameStop stuff happened, one of an ex-student made $8,000 that day because they're playing the stock market game and securities investments, and then some of them are taking real money with parents' permission and investing. And so they're getting access to those real world things, which is pretty cool. 7 students, which a couple of them are in here, earned their commercial drone pilot's license back in the fall, which was awesome, through the senior level robotics course. Next year, we're gonna offer a practicum course where students can earn their CBA. And we have partnerships with 4 different veterinary offices here in town, where they'll go and they'll actually volunteer and work at those vets offices. And next year, we have it's pending application. We are applying with the state with Mesa Springs Healthcare, and we will have a CBA program. So we'll actually have students going and earning their CBA certificate, and they'll have that at the end of next school year. So those are just a couple of the really cool things that are going on at Wylie High School.
You might say what CVA stands for? Just
CVA is Certified Veterinary Assistant. CNA is Certified Nursing Assistant, which is now a state requirement to even become an RN. They don't get to skip that any longer. They have to have that. And so we're providing opportunities for them to work through college to continue that education, or to join the workforce immediately whenever they graduate from Wylie High School. So we're really proud of that. Proud of our teachers. Our teachers are awesome, and they just jump right in there and volunteer and, you know, reach out to the community. And so they're not just working 8 to 4 every day. They're really investing their time in these kids, and these kids are giving it back to us. And so that's pretty cool. And we're also appreciative to our community and how Abilene wants to be a part of what we're doing here. So, thanks.
So let me just make a couple of comments. Miss Berry has really spent a lot of time and effort, and Mr. Smith as well. I might go back to Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Hagler being a part of the curriculum and the historic principles, but it's been a constant move to try to improve the CTE program, and the Purple Dog Company, which is a really neat thing. Reagan actually, when she was teaching it, was the brainchild of that, and so she's continued to work in that direction. You know, I think I was really emphatic that, man, we need to learn that you got to make a profit when you do things, or you can't exist. And so they have really made that a real life situation. You know, we talked the same thing about the ag program too. When you're making a trailer or building a pit, all that's wonderful, but it's really, at the end of the day, you got to be able to show that you can make a profit doing that and feed a family on it if that's what you're going to do for a living. So I appreciate everything Reagan's done. She's really, I think, pushed all of us to be better, including Mr. Smith and Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Hagler as well. So anything else on that, Mr. Smith?
Knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, that, I would agree with that. We're proud of what's going on. You know, a lot of our ag folks right now, there it shows. We have folks at San Antonio, we've got folks at San Angelo, just a lot of things going on. Y'all know that we've expanded to 4 teachers in our ag program. We have 4 teachers in our home economics program as well.
3.5.
3.5, okay. It's hard to get that half teacher.
She walks kind of funny.
Yeah, that's okay. So we are really expanding a lot of the areas, and they've got some great ideas about the business and the technology part as well. Along with these guys, as Reagan said, they're everywhere. You go to a play, they're there. You go to a football game, go to a ball game, they're there. I really think that they have got some real life experiences that are going to help them as they move forward, and so we're excited about all that.
It's great. Thank you very, very much. It's very impressive. It really is.
You know, if I had the money to start my own TV station, I would just buy it and give it to these 3 guys and say, y'all go run it. I'd have all the confidence it would be a very profitable business.
Now, Tim can count. There's another person behind the curtain.
Josh Irby's there. But, you know, the next thing on here is talking about our debate team, and Mr. Justin Holland, who is the brains behind all this operation. I'll say something about Mr. Holland. He was hired last year as a first-year teacher, And he was hired as a theater teacher. And then he has evolved into all of this. And so he has become very, very valuable, a very valuable resource for us. And since he's here, I'll let him tell you about the debate team right quick.
Thank y'all for having me. I want to thank Mr. Smith for letting me to come and brag on our kids today. So on, I think it was last Thursday, either last Thursday or the Thursday before that, we competed in the District 4-5A cross-examination debate contest. We actually competed at Oldham Lake Church of Christ. So we had a lot of success at this district meet. We took 5th place, which went to Brandon Hollers and Maya Dole. 3rd place to Noah Mikowski and Garrett Jones. 2nd place to Caleb Spates and Brendan Hurt, which interesting about those two guys, they will actually be going to Livonia, Texas this weekend to compete at the state Congress meet. And we're hoping to get a little bit of success out of that one too. And then lastly is our 1st place team, Cade Killian and Josh Mahaffey. This 1st place was kind of a special thing to our team because it was the first time since 2007 we've taken this district championship in cross-examination debate. So it was I was kind of glad to be able to take this home, and I was very proud of my kids, and of course they had so much excitement about it too. And thank you all so much for letting me come and brag about the kids.
Before you leave, tell them just a real thumbnail sketch of what Congress is about.
Oh, wow.
Because that's a really interesting thing. I asked Mr. Vaughn if he knew about Congress, and he said he didn't like Congress very much. So.
Go. Kind of interesting a little bit on that one too. So my 2 students, what they do is they go into a room of about, could be anywhere from 18 to 30 different kids. They're competing with kids all over the state of Texas. They basically conduct a Congress session by themselves. There's 3 judges in the back. They judge mainly speeches. They judge parliamentary procedure. The kids set the docket, so they argue over a set number of about 10 to 20 different bills that they all have to create 3-minute speeches to. In fact, there's even a kid that they elect at the beginning of the actual competition to actually run the round. That is called the presiding officer. We actually have a student who is actually competing as a presiding officer at the state meet this weekend as well. We're actually going for outstanding presiding officer. Hopefully we can take that home this weekend, but it's a great experience for these kids. They go through, they delegate with other students, they try to set an agenda, they work together. It's really a big team building exercise, and of course when they're getting together with different schools, collaborating, trying to put together an agenda, it's really, really great to see what they can do at the end of the competition. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Justin. You know, being a debate coach, you think that he'd be able to win debates at home, but his wife is also a debate coach.
State champion too.
All right, I'll go through this other stuff just real quickly here. Some other very important stuff. We'll be hosting our annual UIL academic meet on February 20th. The district UIL meet will be held on March the 27th. Also, this school year, we started a new class for some of our UIL academic kids. They have a class now with Mr. Garrett Dow, who teaches that course, and they work on all different types of UIL events. And after their first academic meet that was held at Texas Tech University, the Red Raider Classic, there were 14 schools in the Class 5A, 6A division. We came in second. And some of our top, they had to reschedule the event once, and because of that, some of our top participants were not able to participate. And so anyway, they're doing very well. That course seems to really be paying off for our kids.
The only team that beat them was Highland Park.
Highland Park's the only team that beat us. That's right.
That's pretty iconic.
Yeah. Members of the Pure Gold Band auditioned virtually for the TMEA All-State Band. We had 17 band members advance to All-Region Band, 12 to Area, and Carlos Valderan advanced to the All-State Band. 2021 Choir, UIL Solo Ensemble Regional Contest results. Wylie High School choir students competed in the Regional UIL Solo Ensemble Contest on January 30th. We had 14 students earn a Division I rating and will represent Wylie at the Texas State Solo Ensemble Contest later this spring. On February 20th, we will be administering the pre-ACT exam This test helps students prepare for the real thing. They get to see what it's like to be under time restraints, they get results back and see what their weak areas are, so they'll be better prepared when they take the actual exam. Our cheer squad competed in the state UIL competition on January 13th. Our team made it to the finals and finished 15th overall. We had 61 students participate in our local stock show on January 9th, and Wylie swept everything. We won every place there was to win. And then just a couple of weeks later, all these same kids competed with their animals in the county show as well. We have approximately 35 art students that will be competing in the annual Visual Arts Scholastic event based on February 27th. This meet will be held virtually this year. 4 senior athletes signed letters of intent to continue their college and their career in college. Desir George was going to Hardin Simmons University to play football. Bryce Cantrell, Hardin Simmons University football. Stellan Wright, Hardin Simmons University football. And Kyler Aguilar, Harding University track and field. Spring sports are now underway, and varsity girls and boys basketball both defeated Abilene Cooper last Friday. Abilene and the boys, Cooper was the first place team, and our boys knocked them off. Our girls have completed district play and finished second in district, and they had the first round playoff game on Thursday of this week, playing at Lubbock Christian High School at 6:30. Playing Amarillo, Tascosa. Miss Tia Locker, she has been named Teacher of the Year by the VFW District 8. Ms. Locker received this award for her work in the classroom, for her devotion to our student-to-student program, and she was recognized with a ceremony at the VFW on Saturday, February 6th. It was a real nice ceremony. I had the opportunity to attend. Last year, that award was won by Kendall Harrison, and this year, Tia Locker was recognized. And then Coach Peyton Little was named as one of the top 100 greatest players in UI girls basketball in the history of UIL. And so I thought that was pretty phenomenal for Peyton. Very happy for her. She's one of those you walk out there and just makes you feel good. She's always got a smile on her face and just a great part of the team. Anyway, it's my 3 minutes up. Your fault.
Let me make one comment about the boys basketball. Girls did finish second. Boys, there's 4 teams within one game.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's 2 teams in first, and we're tied right behind them.
That's
tied
right.
For third right now.
And I apologize, I failed to mention, these books that are on your, at your seats there, these were donated by Benny Mauser. I know many of you know Benny Mauser. She's a retired teacher. She's a longtime Wylie supporter. She's a big part of the Education Foundation. She funds the Don Mauser Memorial Scholarship. She's a big supporter of our ag program. She's out there and active and always wanting to do things to help other people. And that's something that she just wanted y'all to have, and she asked me to give those to y'all.
It is impressive to see everything that our kids are doing. And it's impressive to see the work that goes behind it, that nobody sees by teachers and all those other folks involved. So, thank y'all. All right, you're gonna get another crack at us on the 18th of February.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna ask Chris to push those down. What you have there is a tentative agenda. On the back, I sent out a request for what y'all consider to be y'all's top areas of interest. So far, most of you have had a chance. There's a couple that haven't had a chance. If y'all want to do that, that'd be great, and we get a little more accurate picture. But it looks like the items that were top of the list were staffing and future succession plans in staffing the schools, current construction, future construction, safety and security, including COVID, and then enrollment projections. Those are the top areas, and we'll try to plan the session according to y'all's interest. And we probably have some information regarding the other areas as well, but our past experience is we never get to those last items, so we'll be prepared to do most of the discussion in the areas of the highest interest, so. If you didn't get that, if you let me know, I can resend that to you.
Any questions? Everybody good? Pretty good?
We will be having lunch. I think Miss McMillan is fixing up a gourmet meal and, not, she is hosting it at Wylie East.
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, chicken.
Whatever's on the menu.
Whatever's on the menu, yep.
All right, that'll be good. All right, we're gonna skip E3 just because I wanna make sure you meet during spring break. All right. You'd like for us to meet on the first Monday in March, which is March 1?
I would, but Carol wouldn't. Carol thinks getting the bills finished for the last day of February are a little tough to turn around. Just as a reminder, when we send you the packet next month, we don't have our completed statements at that time. So it's kind of an odd meeting. It just is what
And we
it
may
is.
or may not have all the financials complete, right? We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
But if you guys don't have any problems, then we'll plan on meeting on the 1st. Okay? Just for you.
Thank you, sir.
No, just for her.
Oh.
All right. Teacher incentive allotment, Mr. Wylie?
Mr. Vaughn knows everything there is to know about teacher incentive allotment. He's right up there, almost knows as much about that as he does policy updates, so.
All right, here we go, round two. 2019, the legislature passed House Bill 3. And this bill addressed teacher pay in two ways. First way, it gave a significant across-the-board raise to all teachers. Example, in the 1920 year, the House Bill 3 year, the Wylie average teacher pay raise was $4,367. For comparison, the prior year, the average teacher raise was $703. So a fairly significant raise. The year after, the raise was just a little over $1,000 on average. So House Bill 3 did make a significant impact on teacher pay across the board. The other thing House Bill 3 provided, it created what's called teacher incentive allotment, which was designed to award top teachers. Not all teachers, but top teachers. They did this with, they provided two options for teachers to earn this. The first option was achieving national board certification. This is a pretty involved process, is my understanding. Never done it myself, so just my understanding. It takes about 1.5 to 2 years to go through. And there's no limitation on the amount of teachers that could potentially earn this designation. They will achieve what is called the recognized designation once they've earned this. And on the recognized designation, that's potential additional $3,000 to $9,000 annually. Of course, that's a pretty wide gap. That range is determined by rural and socioeconomic status of your campus. Wylie will be more towards the $3,000 range in the recognized area. So that's one way, is achieving national board certification. The other way is through a locally developed designation system. It's locally developed, but it has state requirements. And in this, there designates 3 levels of teacher. There's the master teacher, that would be in your top 5%. The master teacher could earn in the range of $12,000 to $32,000 annually on top of their salary. Once again, in Wylie terms, because we're not a rural school, because we'll top 5,000 soon, and we don't have a high socioeconomic disadvantage, we're towards the lower end of these scales. The next category is the exemplary teacher, and that's the next 10%, the top 5 to 15%. they could earn an additional $6,000 to $18,000 annually. And then the recognized teacher is the top 15 to 30%, and that's $3,000 to $9,000 additional annually. Of course, the thing is how do we determine the top teachers? They have to be ranked, and that can cause a little uneasiness. That's not something we're really used to doing. Okay, the state has designated that it must be based on the T-test evaluation and student growth measures. And anything, that's what's required by the state, but the local districts may add any additional measures. For example, could be leadership, surveys, attendance, staff development, etc. So locally, we could make additional requirements or additional factors in determining our top 30% of the teachers. We're currently working to develop our local designation system. What we've done to this point, we have a TIA committee that consists of 25 teachers from all the campuses and includes all the campus principals as well. We've met 3 times so far with the teachers. Principals met in the first semester about 3 times prior. We have a workshop scheduled for this Wednesday because there's some decisions that we need to make. I've also hired a consultant to help us with this process, because one thing that we've learned, this is a pretty involved process, and it gets into areas that nobody in our district has much experience with. So we just needed some help putting this together. So we've hired Dr. Tammy Cruz with Cruz Consulting. She's formerly with TEA, and she has a lot of expertise in student growth measures and kind of understands how TEA operates. So she's helping us with this. Basically, what I see as our challenges that's facing us with developing a locally developed teacher incentive plan. Number one is consistency on T-tests. We never had to worry too much about what the evaluations look like at pre-K campus versus what the AP Calculus teachers' evaluations and what kind of alignment and consistency we have there and all the points in between. And so we've got to make sure that our teachers feel comfortable that our T-test evaluations are consistent no matter what grade level. Other thing, and this is one that's really challenging, is valid student growth measures in all areas. Just a few areas we do with we have the STAR progress measures, which is basically 4 through 8, our 4 through 8 STAR tests. Those are built into that. Lower grades do some M-class, which has some built in. There's a few other areas, but in general, there's a lot of teachers that we don't have built-in student growth measures. You take, for example, your theater teachers, your business teachers. A lot of these, you heard about CTE and all the good things that are going on. We know good things are happening, but as far as developing a student starts here and a student finishes here, we don't have those growth measures in place. And you're looking at music, just lots of subjects. Chemistry, for example, physics, lots of areas we don't have built-in growth measures, so we've got to build those. Then they have to pass the state muster. Once we build those, they go through Texas Tech, and Texas Tech has to validate those. So this becomes quite a process. So validating student growth measures, one of our challenges, and the number 3 challenge I put is helping the teachers get comfortable with this. We haven't done anything quite like this. A long time ago, there was Career Ladder, which went away. There's been, I would say, quite a bit more thought and effort has been put into this one, but it's still, there's some apprehension out there. You guys have questions?
What kind of feedback did you get from the teachers and the administrators?
Administrators are all on board for helping the teachers. To be totally honest, if an administrator looks at this selfishly, there's not a whole lot of, basically it's now your T-test evaluations are going to be a whole lot more questioned than what they used to be, because now there's money tied to it. This is one of these things that, it makes the administrator's job harder, no doubt about it. Possibly looking at more evaluations, because now we had a 3-year rotating process with the evaluations. Now, when you start ranking teachers, you gotta evaluate them every year. So that's an issue we're trying to work through, that's a significant time factor. But these guys are willing to do that because they want to reward their best teachers. Teachers, I would say there's some apprehension with that. Because there's that, I kind of teased them, you guys are all high school musical, we're all in this together. That's how teachers think. They're not real competitive and I think they sense, well, if I get on it, but my friend doesn't, that's going to be awkward that way. Or if I don't get on it, my friend does. So there's some concern out there. I think some would just assume this not come about, to tell you the truth. Looking at it down the road, though, other districts in the area do this. We don't want to lose our top teachers because you can see these are significant dollars. So we don't see that we have a lot of choice. And we're trying to help the teachers get there and get comfortable with this. They're going to play a big part. That's why there's 25 of them in developing this. I mean, this is good. They're going to have their hand in this locally developed option. And some of them have said we got more than 30% good teachers. That's some feeling there, and I don't disagree with that at all. But, there is going to be a top 30%. We just got to figure out how to accurately reward that top 30%.
So at any point, and I know this is long, at any point do we get left holding the bag with the money? Is this something that we think will stick?
Well, okay.
I know that's a crazy question.
So,
but
let me just say this. The devil's in the details on this deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is no doubt that we thought we kind of understood it. Administrators, we tried to work through some details. When we met with the teachers, they came up with a whole lot more really pointed questions that were great questions. And they stumped the expert. And so let me make comment on money. Right now, this being part of House Bill 3, one of the things that's not going to happen, just FYI, we're probably not going to see money into Wylie ISD until 2023. Isn't that what you determined? So there is a lot of foundational work that happens to get there. It just so happens that everybody you talk to, or everybody that's talking right now, the comptroller, the Speaker of the House, the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor, everybody is saying we're going to fully fund House Bill 3, which includes the teacher's incentive allotment, through the next biennium, which is 2023. So, we don't know, and here's the other thing. The number of teachers, 30% they can figure. But what they can't figure out is how many people are going to go out and get that national board certification. So there's a real wild card on this dollar amount. And I don't know that we know for sure if they're going to pull the rug out from under us. These are such large amounts, I don't see any way. So this money is tied to the teacher. So if Mr. Hagler is teaching at Wylie ISD and he gets a teacher incentive allotment, and he moves to Houston ISD, that money follows him.
Okay.
The question is what happens, if they don't fund it, or so this is strictly a state-funded animal. So if it goes away, they really aren't leaving it in our hands. The state is saying we didn't have the money this year to pay Terry Hagler in Houston ISD. One of the other things, so if Terry's working here and he's, whichever scale that is, let's say the top end is
Master?
the master, yeah, because that's the kind of teacher he is. The master teacher, and he gets 12,000 for us, and he goes to a rural and low socioeconomic. He's going to go from 12,000 to 32,000 on top of his salary. So there's going to be some challenge for us to maintain our teachers who get the TIA to stay in our district. And so there's a lot of interesting things that are moving parts on this.
The option one, the national certification, what were the teachers' pulse on that piece?
That one, there's not a whole lot of concern on that one, because that's one you can just go out there and get it, and everybody can get it. And that's one we've tried to say, hey, go after this. I think you can probably get to that money quicker. So I would say that's generally positive. The apprehension is with option two.
And if you're on that one, that's outside. I mean, you don't have to qualify for that top 30% to get that. But if you are part of that top 30%, your pay would be depending on the level of teacher you're on. But you could be outside that 30% to get that.
What was the top number for the national certification?
3,000. It's well, and the top number's 9,000.
Okay.
The number we're looking at
So
is
the
3,000.
incentive to do that is not as great as going the other way.
But it's guaranteed for 3 years. I mean, 5 years. 5 years.
I
So
understand that, but what I'm saying is, if I can get $3,000 or I can get $12,000, then,
sure,
you know, it's a $9,000.
but it's a guarantee.
Is there any cost to getting that certification?
Yes, it costs nearly $2,000, but once you get it, the state has said they'll reimburse that.
At least through biennium, through the
I was
next
gonna say.
biennium. And that's why at the last meeting, I encouraged everybody, if you're gonna do it now, because they're telling you they're gonna fund it through this next biennium. So you get it out of the way, you got it. And it is a time commitment, but the dollar commitment should be reimbursed. If you pass it, so if you take it and don't pass it, you eat it.
I guess, I mean, your 30%, either it's gonna stay the same 30% every year, or is it gonna change? And then when it changes, what happens?
That's a good question too.
Complicated.
This is something I've really had to go to school on to try and get comfortable with it, and I haven't accomplished that completely yet. It probably, because of the growth measures, the student growth measures, we're gonna have to bring teachers in phases of what we have in place, what we're able to develop. And so it would be in that initial year, 30% of who we bring forward, of the group we bring forward. And then, but then every year they'll get measured once you're on it. I shouldn't say that. Once you're on it for 5 years. And even if you fall out of the top 30%, then your designation is good for 5 years. So you can say you don't qualify the first year, but you get in the top 30 the second year. Well, you're now on it, but that person you say you bumped off, they didn't lose it. They got it for 5 years.
So does this affect their year, they're in retirement year? Like what if they're on it and they're not? They're on it, like which do you, that doesn't make sense to me as far as what they retire with. Their year, their amount. Whatever
It's part of their
it is,
average,
that's
the
what I'm
best
saying.
5 average.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so.
It will factor
if it
into that.
fluctuates, is what I'm saying.
That's
We'll just
right,
have to- okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
But it is part of their salary.
That's what I'm saying, it is,
Yeah.
I mean,
So, yeah, I mean, if they continue to move up,
Move up,
that'll
that's great.
continue to move
Uh-huh.
up, yeah.
okay.
But it's all, here's the one thing I would like to emphasize. You know, Mr. Vaughn talked about the great pay raises we got last year. This is all icing on the cake if we'll look at it that way. The problem is that that's not human nature. Human nature is, I want to look at the person next to me, or I want to see, well, I didn't get that 12,000, I only got 3, and now I'm unhappy because I just got 3. Even when that 3 is icing on the cake. So, I'm just, this is a potentially a very contentious thing. I like what Mr. Goodenough likes to say is that, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to reward some really great teachers. And we've got to keep our eyes on that. We can't look at the shortcomings of the system. To me, this is an attempt by the Texas legislature to do a good thing for teachers. And so, I think we gotta take them at that. I don't think there's anything divisive in the legislation. Intentional, for sure.
When were you planning on trying to get this decided?
The calendar is, we have to present our plan by April 15th. This is planning year. Next year is data year. That's when we've got to do the evaluations, and the student growth measures, submit the data for those that we bring forward in the first phase. The next year constitutes what they would call their approval year, and then comes the money, the designation and the money. So this is a fairly long process. We think what we need, we're trying to decide right now, who are we going to go forward with? Who do we feel like we're comfortable with our student growth measures, that we can go ahead and go forward with that group in round 1. The concerning thing there is what we've been told is there's no partial credit on this. It's either all approved or all disapproved. So if we bring too many and we don't have our growth measures not validated in one area, we kind of start over. So that's concerning. So this is a committee that teachers own. They've discovered this is not one of those that you sit and listen to it, and at the end you kind of rubber stamp it. You're making some real decisions with this one. And that's why we're having a workshop Wednesday. We've got subs all day Wednesday to try and get some of this stuff hammered out. Because what we found in our last meeting is a 2-hour session with our consultant. She started with Q&A. We finished our 2-hour session with Q&A. We never got out of Q&A. So there are lots of questions. There are concerns. We're trying to get those out now. We may start with, okay, let's get that out there. We got to put this aside now. We got to make some decisions and move forward. That's at some point I'm going to have to push us that way. We've got to make some decisions. So this is one of the more complex things that I've tried to work with and lead. This one's a challenge to get figured out.
And I might add, Tommy said we got subs all day just for the 25 teachers. So district-wide, 25 subs, which is still a challenge for us, I'm sure.
We picked a Wednesday, we looked at calendars, not a whole lot going on, so we should have subs scattered out available to get this covered. We're meeting in a black box, which is big enough to spread out a little bit, small enough to, where people can comfortably interact. And we're going to try and make a big step and get some things figured out. Other questions?
So I guess we'll get kind of the final verdict in our April meeting?
I'm guessing it has to have board approval.
I would think so. Yeah, you'll get the way I see this is, as far as the plan, you'll get, well, this is the plan we're presenting forward. But as long as the legislature keeps approving it, this will be phase in, adjust, adapt, phase in. So it'll be an ongoing deal.
Mr. Long, explain what the consultant said. If our plan doesn't pass the measure the first time, what a delay would be, a timeline.
Do you remember it, Mr. Boo?
2 years.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's,
Additional period to reapply, I think.
yeah.
So we gotta get it right in April, by April 15th.
So so the push, so you want to bring as many teachers on as quickly as possible. But there's risk in doing that if the valid growth measures aren't in place. So that's an example where we need some help, some guidance. Other questions?
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, Mr. Bond, I think everybody would echo this. Mr. Bond's been invaluable. This is one of the things, he didn't know this when I brought him on to the administration, or he may not have accepted.
In August, I was going, what's that TIA thing? I got a little better idea now.
He's doing a great job, and that group of teachers is already working hard. I think everybody involved is saying, wow, this is a lot. So, thank you, Mr. Vaughn, for your work, and administrators as well.
Thank you. All right, we finished construction. Let's talk about Title 4. Same drug-free school.
Yes, sir. We're required to give y'all a report on some of these incidents in the district. On page 50, you see the number of incidents, basically, that rise to the higher levels of discipline. And we had, as you see there, we aren't always this fortunate at our junior high. Our junior highs didn't have any incidents. This is taken from the PEAMS report and all the data that they enter throughout the year. But the high school, we had 9 incidents of where either marijuana was possessed, sold, used, or the student was under the influence. And then 1 high school incident where there was alcohol involved, possession, sold, used, or was under the influence. So again, in a lot of ways, we are very fortunate that number's not higher. I can tell you in a lot of school districts it is higher, but we are working every day to try to lower that as well. So I know Mr. Smith and his crew, and then Mr. Bessett's involved in that process as well.
Good.
So that's a safe and drug-free report.
COVID.
Well, let me make one quick comment, and then I'll ask Mr. Besson if he wants to add anything. One of the things that we've said all along is this is a moving target with COVID. Things changing all the time. The most recent change happened today at 1:15. We found out that we've been following one set of rules for athletics. A little different set was in place for one-act play, and it's one-act play season. So here we go. We got a ruling that says today, one-act play, everybody involved must wear masks except, and correct me if I'm wrong, during the performance of the one-act play. So practice, you wear a mask. People coming in to watch, you wear a mask. Everybody wearing a mask except for the day of the performance. Not practice for the performance, but the performance. And on that day, you get to not wear your mask, and that's option of
While they're on the stage.
while they're on the stage. Yeah, if they're backstage, they need to be wearing it. That's what I understood. Which is a change, because up until before 1:15 today, they had to wear them while they performed. And we had a play, was it last week? Last week, and they were wearing them. And I'm just telling you, it is much more difficult to understand them with their masks on. So I think that's a good thing. Did I summarize that? Is that pretty, everybody? So that's the latest, but every time you're trying to make a decision with, people are involved in there, this is important. So we get emails and phone calls and all kinds of things. Mr. Besson, anything else that you want to add?
Just that our numbers are, good. We're on week 3 that we've kind of had a downward spiral to some degree. We're still testing between 90 and 100 per week. Fortunately, that we have very few positives. I think last week we had 6 out of 100 that we tested. Our contact tracing is still going, and as we're seeing, we're not getting spread within the school. Most of that's from an outside source, generally a family member. Seems like that's pretty consistent. I don't know if that's the way it is countywide, but that's what we're seeing. Fortunately, I just did Health and Human Services report today, and we were lucky that we had 6 cases last week though that were already in quarantine, so they had no close contact with any of our staff or students, and that's been good with our contact tracing and people following those guidelines that, especially when they have close family contact that becomes positive, they're not, infectious when they're around other people. So I think that's helped our numbers too. That's all I have.
Well, and I think Dr. Lowry, we were kind of having a small discussion before the meeting, but numbers at the hospital are better, and
Yeah.
so the community as a whole is moving in the right direction right now.
Yeah, I think we've gotten past our holiday bump and headed in a very favorable trend. So it's very nice to see.
And I think for the most part, we've mirrored that positive trend.
I'll say we don't need to let our guards down and loosen anything that we're doing. And I don't think the state's changed any requirements for schools either.
No,
I mean, other
that's fair
than
enough.
for the one act play. But anyway, I just appreciate everybody's efforts.
Okay. So anybody else? Okay.
Well, we're gonna go into executive session. If you guys will go outside and social distance for about 45 minutes. Or not.
We're gonna help them move their